Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I had actually promised not to show my face when I was talking to Tia a few seconds ago, but I seem to have forgotten all about that. I have a very special guest. I have Tia. You guys met her, I want to say a couple of weeks ago. We had her on the podcast, and it was a hit. And we're welcoming her back. Tia is entrepreneur extraordinaire.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast, regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.
She's going to tell you all about herself, but what I do like to point out is she's breaking boundaries. She is leading the way for Black and brown entrepreneurs in Philadelphia and on the East Coast, really, for advancement in the life sciences. So Tia, tell us more about yourself before we jump into the conversation today.
First, thank you for having me, Deshaun. Founder and CEO of Lucas Pi Bio, as well as Heliplex. Lucas Pi Bio is a medicine manufacturing company. Heliplex is the first commercial life science co-working space with a built-in accelerator. And so I have 20 years in the biotech industry myself, working my way up literally from, I guess you say, the bench top and enrolling patients into clinical trials as an intern, to senior manager was my last title as far as being an employee in big pharma. And then now I have my own two companies as I guess you call it, C-suite executive. And so you going to go or keep going?
Keep going. I mean, I love hearing about you because I think it's
I am an HBCU graduate of Howard University. I got my bachelor's in biology from there. Later on, I went back and got my master's in entertainment business from Full Sail University. I actually have a chronic condition myself. I took about 2.5 years off. And during that time, I ended up following my friends to LA. They're all in music and film. And so I got into the music area as far as doing social media marketing and all that stuff when it was super, super hot and at the beginning of Twitter's hype and all that stuff at that time. And then when I was cleared by the doctor, I went back to biotech. And then in that time, I got my second master's in regulatory science from University of Southern California. Regulatory science is the study of taking food, medical devices, and drugs, of course, from bench top or research or another country for food perspective, and bringing it into the commercial market, whether it's in the U.S. or any other country around the world. So that's a bit of background about me. I love science. I've been a science nerd from day one. I got on my nerd on biotech t-shirt, bio conference a few years ago.
Oh, I love it.
And so I'm happy to be here and excited to speak with you today, Deshaun.
Thank you again, Tia. So Tia, we're actually going to have, we're both in Philadelphia, and we've been dealing with some riots and some protests in the last few days. And we're going to sort of tangentially get into that, but I want to use this opportunity to actually have a discussion about how to, actually, you phrased it better than me. Say it again about what our discussion is going to be, because I was like, yes, that is exactly what I want to talk about.
Got you. So our topic discussion is today is to, as entrepreneurs or any other business, how to attract people of color for employment, more specifically, how to retain them, and more specifically than that, how do you retain and attract African-American men into these respective roles, and how do you go out and search for them? So this is right on time for me as well, because I'm actually having a discussion with my staff.
So talk to me. Was this discussion raised to you by your staff, or did you do it yourself?
I did it myself. We had an outside contractor come to us, and they do hiring of executives and things of that nature. Now, right now, I have a team of 12. Majority of them are African American and or people of color. And so we have a few executive roles that we need to hire for next year's second quarter. And so they came to me, and they only do executive roles, and they only do biotech executive roles. So the first thing I asked them was, okay, so what is your rate of diversity? Like, what is your rate of attracting people from people of color? And I left it blank like that on purpose. And so the first thing he said was, this person said was, oh, we have a 5-6% rate of hiring people of color. They are Indian descent, Chinese, and some other, I think it's from the UK, which I don't know how that goes into people of color. and particularly for the majority. No disrespect, I know there's Black people in the UK, but I don't think he meant it like that. He was just trying to show that he has the capability of hiring people outside
non-US, right,
of different cultural background. I said, oh, okay. I said, well,
the Canadians.
Say it again.
The Canadians as well.
Right. He just, I don't know if he pulled out his ass or whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. I purposely hired folks of color. When I say people of color, I'm talking about Black and brown people to be on my team. And I know I have a unique way of going after them because either they're in my network or I know where to look. And so we got to talking and I brought up Jobwell. Jobwell is a hiring talent agency specifically for manager and executive roles. Specifically for people of color, the whole spectrum, Black, Latinx, Indian, anything but your traditional white Caucasian male. So I brought them up. He had never heard of Jobwell at all. I said, well, here's what we can do. I said, Jobwell has a very good platform, but they don't have anybody that can recognize who's ready for an executive role in life sciences. This is just not their background. Their background is everything else except life sciences, but I think it's a good opportunity as a biotech company to partner with them. I said, but I need somebody to do the screening process for them. So I'll hook you up with them and y'all had a conversation. So then the next question was from him to me and say, okay, well, where are you finding these people? I said, well, here's the thing. You don't see a lot of faces like me at the C-suite level that's ready to do some type of lateral transfer move. I said, you have to go under. I said, what people don't know about the life science and biotech industry is that it is mostly Black and brown people doing the core of the work. They are on the floor making the drug. They are doing the quality audit. They are doing the quality control testing. They are doing the packaging and labeling and supply chain. I said, now here's the kicker. You're thinking that these are all entry level, blue collar, low paid jobs. They are actually, some of them are well paid. But they don't get any higher than maybe supervisor or manager. I said, I have somebody on my staff that actually helped and was instrumental in a big pharma company setting up their whole clinical development department. And then when the 2008 shitstorm hit, they got laid off. Now, this person worked their way up from the floor to this semi-manager level. I think they got associate manager at the time. She is way senior than me. She's been in this industry for over 30 years, close to 40. Do you know, since 2008, she has not been able to get a full-time job. She always gets hired as a temp. She only has a high school diploma and they use that against her despite her 30 to 40 years of experience. And then when they do hire her at whatever associate level they're going to give her in pay, they have her sit in the room with the C-suite people and do the fucking job of a C-suite person without the title, without the pay. And she's been doing that since 2008 up until now. So that's 12 years. 12 years she's endured that. And she's on my team now. She only got like a semester or a year left of her bachelor's degree that she's able to do now because of COVID. But that is my point, and that is my example of what people of color go through and how we keep our head down, we do the work. Many of us don't know that it's not about keeping your head down and doing the work to get the promotion. Many of us don't even have the opportunity to network with the appropriate people to get in that appropriate lane to be seen, to be promoted to those positions. And if you were fortunate enough, like I was many, many times throughout my career, you did all that work, you got to where you needed to go, you did the interview, and they came back and told you you're not qualified. You have no manager experience. They don't care what you did at the lower level and that you had fucking 20 people reporting to you. They'll make up a number as one was made up to me. You haven't managed 100 people yet. I think I was up to like 60, 75 at that point at the company that I had came from. Or they tell you, oh, it's not your turn. This company is not ready for someone like you to have that position. And we can't afford that right now.
See, that there's so many things to unpack there. My first question to you as an entrepreneur, I remember having this discussion, a similar version of this discussion with you the last time you were on. And I asked you, do you look for Black and brown people? And you're like, no, I look for the most qualified people. If they just happen to be Black and brown, that's a very useful thing to have. But I thought that was very valuable to sort of go, it's not a quota system. It's not like, oh, we're going to have this quality. It's they're qualified people that quite bluntly need jobs. And I'm happy to help them if I can, as long as it helps me as well. And this is not a charity, but they don't need charity either. So it works out.
It works out.
So let me ask you this. As a entrepreneur, do you think, and this is actually coming from a person who's held jobs, but quite honestly, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and that's always just been the case. And I don't like admitting that in the future because there might be a position time when someone actually wants to hire me, but it's out there. But my question is, why do you think we don't see more entrepreneurship when someone is that qualified to go, you know what? I do the job that the C-suite's doing. Is it fear? Is it lack of mentors? Is it lack of hope? Or is it cash? Or is it something different that's holding back people who are eminently qualified that can do the job? And when I say do the job, actually do the work, because it would be your business. Like, what stops them from becoming entrepreneurs and raising that next level of businesses that's going to take it to the next level?
That is a wonderful question. That's literally applicable to me. Like, where the hell did I get off thinking I could go here and do a C-suite type of job? And I've never had the opportunity to even get a C-suite job when I was actively working in the industry, right? And so it's three things. It's fear of not being successful. It is confidence or lack of confidence, thinking that you aren't credible, right? Because you've been working in the system for so long and all these people been telling you, no, go get this, go get that, go get this. And every time you went and got X, Y, and Z, you still didn't have enough. You still weren't enough. So that's lack of confidence. And then the last part is funding. You know, you have all these different types of opportunities, as they like to call it, for small business. I'm actually a member of the Small Business Minority Council in Philadelphia. And so we've been doing monthly meetings concerning this topic as far as funding. And what I personally come to the conclusion to is we've been doing all this brainstorming and trying to revamp the system that COVID-19 has happened to highlight now that, you know, you see the lack of funding going to these type of businesses. What I've come to notice is that from their perspective, when it comes to funding, as an entrepreneur, from us, we don't have it, right? But from the perspective of the people that's funding the money, I think that there is a common theme of fear on that side, and this stereotype that Black people and money don't mix, right? They can only have managed so much, which is why you often see minority businesses only getting funding in the thousands range, right? And when I say 1,000, they may go as high as maybe like 50,000, 75,000. Black entrepreneurs are not often enough getting $100,000 check, and they damn sure ain't getting no $1 million check. I mean, I'm probably a unicorn in the money that I raise, but that's because most likely my venture capital team is majority African American, right? And they're also in my field of science, so they're very niche to where my industry is. But other people don't have those opportunities because from the perspective of the people that have the money, we can't manage that type of money. We're too high of a risk because we don't come from the Harvards or the Stanfords or the Yale. We do not come from old money where we did a family fundraising round and we were able to raise hundreds and thousands of dollars, close to millions of dollars, right? And then the other part is that most Black entrepreneurs, when they jump into that seat, when they know what they know, they get intimidated when it comes down to pitching for that money, because all that stuff that I just mentioned, as far as the friends and family round, the schooling, coming from the right type of companies with internships and previous work experience, when I'm in a room, when I got a glaring audience of Caucasian people drilling me and asking me questions, that can be intimidating. And for a split second, which is all that it takes to knock somebody off their confidence pedestal, well, a split second now, while you're asking me questions, I'm in my mind, well, shit, should I even be here? Maybe I'm not qualified. Oh, shit, I don't know the answer to that question. And these questions that they don't know the answer to has nothing to do with their expertise, has nothing to do with their the niche or the sector of their business. It has to do with what they've been exposed to, what they understand as far as taking money from somebody and being able to use that in their business. And oftentimes it comes down to the funder not listening. And what I mean by that is that person of color is telling them exactly the correct things they need to say to receive that money, but they're not using the terms that they're used to hearing. It's happened to me.
Give me an example.
And I had a team. I'm about to give you an example. So
okay.
I had a meeting with this certain part of the Philadelphia sector. It was a big pitch meeting opportunity to me to pitch. Wasn't for funding. It was for trying to acquire some land. And they asked me something, and I mentioned, so I said, okay, so what do you need to see that I have this money? I was like, do you want to verify with a letter from the investors or whatever? I said basically everything but fucking term sheet. Right. Now, it wasn't that I didn't know what a term sheet was. It's just that shit. I'm in there, you ask me a question, I'm trying to make sure I answer it. And so I might have fumbled a little bit in my brain, and term sheet wasn't coming to my mouth. Yeah. And so as I'm saying, do you need a letter of verification? Do you want a letter from venture capitalists? Do you want whatever the hell I said? The person that was asking me the question was like, no, that's not enough. Or no, we need something more substantial. All these words that be knocking down my credibility in front of I was in there in a room like maybe 10, 12 people. And so my team member that was working with me as part of the construction team at that time, he stepped in and he said, so-and-so. So would it be okay if she brought a term sheet? Do you know what he said? Yes, that's what I need. And I'm in there like, I literally said that. I just said the same thing. No, what he said was correct. That's what we need. We can't do anything with a letter of verification. Like, we need to make sure that the funds are committed and accounted for and blah, 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 blah. That's what I mean. So fear, confidence, and lack of ability to close or receive funding is the problem with more minorities getting involved in small businesses. And also when you're getting involved in a small business that's not stereotypical to you as a person or your culture, or what they perceive to be stereotypical to your race, for instance. And I've been talking about this openly with Philadelphia. I was like, y'all have tons of money ready for people that have a salon, barbershop, construction company, restaurant, you name it, anything leisure, entertainment, y'all throw money at it. And y'all not throwing tons of money at it. Y'all throwing like $5,000, $10,000, whatever, right? But when somebody like me, who was a small business by default, right? Because we don't have over, 500 members or 1,000 members, we consider a larger enterprise business. But my business is enterprise level. And my business model is, you have no idea what to do with me. You have no financial resources or tools to offer me in my fundraising. All you can do is tell me like, oh, we're looking for a business like yours. Come back when you have the money. That's all you got from me. Or when I do have the money, you find some other reason that you can't work with it because from your perspective, it's too much money for my type of business, but it's not. It's just too much money for my black ass to have this business. And you don't want to be associated with it because it's a startup and it may fail. But here's the kicker. All startups start and they may fail. That's the risk you take. So that let me know that you're not, that you're risk averse. You're not taking risks for minority businesses. You're taking risks with what you're comfortable in a black person or somebody of color doing from their stereotypical perceived expertise. Regardless of what the fuck I have on paper with my history being in the business 20 years, with my team having collectively over 100 years experience, and I got all the receipts to show you. It doesn't mean anything to you. But had this space been a little bit more paler, maybe this been a little bit more chiseled to look more male, I would have had money thrown at me during COVID-19. They're not throwing it. They're watching. Everybody's sending me emails, we speak, and they're just watching and waiting until we sign this first customer. And then when we sign that first customer, we may get a little rush. When we sign the third customer, that's when everybody's going to come running and act like they've known me for years and they want to be down, they want to throw money at it. By that time, it may be too late.
So let me ask you a few questions that come out of that for me. Oh shoot, hold on. Sorry, I had so many questions as I'm thinking through this. So what I hear you talking about is obviously you, Tia, are an exception because, as you put it, you're a unicorn. You've raised money and you've done it successfully. But for someone who's coming out new, do you think it's the lack of mentorship that teaches them for lack of a better term, the magic words, term sheet? That's the word you want to use. You knew it, obviously. But quite bluntly, if I had to walk in, and I'm a lawyer who's done this several times, I'm not sure. I would probably fizzle out my head as I walked into the room. I can guarantee you I would have forgotten the term sheet personally. And that's me doing this. If I was a brand new entrepreneur, I don't care who you are, you're probably going to forget that term. Is there someone? Do we need a better system to mentor these individuals to be able to be confident in that room to start off with? No, I know you're saying no, so I'm going to hear you out for sure. But I want to at least frame my question so that I understand why your no is applicable. But yeah, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm saying no. There are already plenty of resources pre-COVID-19 for them to get. When I had that meeting, for example, I was not fresh out of Accelerator Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. My ass just had a fucking brain fart. And that's happening a lot. So I think people associate people of color as needing all this mentorship, all this help. Guess what? If anybody is an expert at their business, at what they do, from doing that shit every day or working with a family member that did that shit every day and now they want to turn into the business, it is people of color. They don't need no more fucking mentorship. We don't need no more fucking accelerators or, what do they call it? Panel discussions of inclusion and diversity.
Right.
And how do we reach out to them and make sure that, they understand how to access these resources? Here's the thing. At that thing that I just said right now, that little panel on diversity, inclusion, and access, we don't need to learn how to access the resources. Here's the kicker. Where the fucking resources at? We don't need to learn how to access shit. We need the fucking resources.
Right.
Have the resources. I'm gonna ask you this, Deshaun. All this fucking money during COVID-19 has been raised, and it isn't just Caucasians. It's some black people too. Magic Johnson, whatever. Right? P. Diddy. Everybody's donated, put millions of dollars into a venture capital fund with so and so and so and so. We take the picture with the check. Do we ever see an article that comes out to say so-and-so received funding from that fund with Diddy or Magic Johnson or whoever? Do we ever see that story?
I have not.
I have not.
I always assume that it happens because it's not as sexy to talk about here's what happened. It's sexier to talk about here's the money that was given.
But that's the crazy part, because you see tons of stories of white companies on Crunchbase and Angel VC or whatever that shit called I'm part of. You see tons of news articles. I get them in my thing too. A newsletter to say, hey, such and such company just raised $100 million during COVID-19.
That's fair. That's fair. I
know
that.
The black person there is a white boy. So obviously stuff is happening, but why aren't y'all releasing these resources? What are you holding on to it for? These people like myself have been waiting for these resources to come. Hell, I'm in the niche of COVID-19. I ain't got no money coming thrown at me like that. Everybody come to me is like, oh yeah, we're interested, but we want to see the business model proven. We want to see you sign your customer and da 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 da. So where does that lead me until this funding is able to be realistically funded into my account, right? I have a term sheet all day. That's nice. Y'all say y'all gonna do it, right? Yeah. And then now it's time, right? And so we're about to do this capital call, which most minorities have to do. A capital call is when I have to do some type of call or video conferencing or email and literally ask the money that was already promised for me, right? Whereas again, our white Caucasians, when they get money, the shit's funded in their accounts in less than 30 days, ain't no problem.
So what I hear you saying then, forget the mentors. That's not where we're going. So how do we fix it? What is the best way to? What is the best way to? One is have the resources. Obviously, that's where is the money, as you put it. So
where is the
release
money?
the money that was already supposed to be available. But that's sort of an overall general. I don't know how you even begin to say you aren't releasing the money, right? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm actually just trying to figure out how do you call someone out for not releasing the money. And my next question to that is, are there any other factors
for not having the money? Yeah, there may be some factors if you got to meet some type of milestone or whatever.
No, that's not what I meant. I'm sorry. What are the other factors that are preventing Black and brown entrepreneurship at the level that we probably should be seeing, and that we aren't enabling this process in the way we should be?
I think there has to be a conscious effort to stop looking at people of color as less than, more risky, undereducated, not ready yet, needy as people. That's not who we are. Mm-hmm. That's the last thing of who we are. You want to go all the way back to slavery and shit. We fought every step of the way. Some of us fucking committed suicide in the ocean on purpose not to hit that American soil. So that's not the case. The fact that we was able to withstand that and still able to go through and withstand this current shit that's going on with Black Lives Matter, and then back to the Civil Rights Movement, gives you a picture that if anybody has tenacity to reach that milestone, that finish line, and do right with what they're supposed to do right with as far as that money, it is people of color. Immigrants, in particular, outside of just general Black and brown people, we all know everybody. People of color built this country. It wasn't built by Americans. White, Caucasian. It was built by people of color. So why do you think that you need to hold on to this money that tight? And if you do feel that way, right? If you understand that it's just something, I just can't get around it, and maybe you did see somebody that did something and they didn't do what they're supposed to do with the money. Got it. Cool. But that doesn't mean that person was representative of everybody in the whole spectrum. So that means that the person who has the money, whoever's funding, you guys need to consciously come up with some type of way with some checks and balances. And it ain't even that hard, because guess what? You have blockchain technology. What you put in, the person cannot release until they meet whatever standard in that software system, whatever the fuck it is, right? Yeah. You have all these things to prevent you from being in a situation of being fooled or duped by the founder and them doing anything with the money. And to be honest with you, white Caucasians steal money too. There are a lot more stories of their asses stealing that shit than it is of people of color. The difference is the people with the money are too embarrassed to tell that story, so it never gets out. But if we was to dig and look at that shit, you will see that shit all day.
Powerful word. Tia, if the entrepreneurship goes off, you really should consider politics. You do know how to spend the money.
Oh man, politics. Shit, I'm going through it now with the city of Philadelphia. It's political as hell. And I didn't realize that till I got knee deep in it. I'm just like, it just goes to territory. So I learn as I go, but I do stand my ground just the way I'm speaking to y'all today on this podcast, and tell them how I really feel. I offer the words that come out of my mouth after we get through with the song and dance, and it's a pleasure to meet you, and blah, blah, blah. And if you do that dance with me too long, I'm going to say, hey, can I be candid with you? Or if I'm really comfortable, I'm going to say, hey, cut the shit. What's the purpose of this conversation? You're wasting my fucking time.
Right.
I do it every time. And either we move forward and it goes through, or like some people, I never hear from them again, and that's okay. It's not stopping my train. But don't waste my time. Don't do things because I'm the black face of life science and you want to get in life science, or you figure I have some information, so you figure you come pick my brain and steal the shit from me and go do what you're going to do. I'm not going for none of that shit. And I'm also not going to be drugged along by you doing multiple fucking meetings. If I give you a certain amount of information and we signed the NDA, and I'm using an example that's going on right now, I expect you to read it if I gave it to you fucking 1 to 2 weeks ahead of the meeting. And then you ask me not only for me to be in the meeting, but some of my business partners to come into the meeting, and you come into the meeting and it's like this. I saw this thing. I have a question. Can you explain this? That shit is in the fucking paperwork. Why are we talking about shit that you should have read? Because you're not asking me something that you don't understand. You're asking me to repeat the shit that's in the paperwork. So all that shit, this is what people of color get tired of. And then a great percentage just probably just end up going back to work. Or the ones that's in a job, because most of the time they're not a full-time founder, right? They're still working a job and supporting their families. That's why they never move into the full-time, because they don't have time for the shit. They gotta eat, just like you gotta eat. They gotta pay their employees, just like you gotta pay your employees. The difference with us is we have less resources to be able to bullshit with. So some of our Caucasian friends can put up a website pay for the best website, SEO this and these pictures, and hell, they made me do a fucking photo shoot. We ain't doing that shit. We doing Squarespace. We don't have, we may not have a email like mine is at lucaspiebio.com. My first email was lucaspie.bio@gmail.com, meaning the shit was free.
Right.
Like we have things that we have to do to even attract people, but we have to get funding a lot quicker because we don't even have it at the beginning like the white folks do. We're not doing the friends and family round. They got no money. We don't come from money. We can't come from money. For the example I just told you with the young lady that works for me that's been in the industry for 30 years without the title or the pay simply because she didn't have no fucking bachelor's degree. But she has all the experience of a bachelor's degree. And then now we can just move over to this whole thing with attracting Black men and retaining them and being able to have them go through the matriculation, actually, I guess you say, retain a high quality, high wage employment opportunity. And so here's the thing you need to know when it comes to Black men. And this is from my personal experience. When it comes to Black men, they have a ton of shit on their plate. Whether they married with kids or a single dad with kids or just a single guy, they have a tons of shit on their plate mentally and financially. So when they come to you and they do that interview, what's that movie? Will Smith, when he came to the interview and he had the paint and the members only jacket and all that shit, shit is real life. When that dude, when he had to take the train, and not just what I'm talking about today, when that Black man, a person of color man, had to take that train to that job that's way out, he probably was on that train for at least 2.5, 3 hours because of where he lived in relation to that job. In between that, he probably didn't have enough money to get on the train. Somebody probably gave him something. And I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about this particular character that's on topic for our discussion today. Yeah. Okay, so he had to scramble to get that money together. He had to take off work from the mediocre job that he works at. And when he took off work, you ain't get no damn PTO. He's not getting paid that day as he busts his ass to get out there to do that interview for you as an employer to not even hear what he has to say because his hair wasn't cut and fresh and faded like mine. He probably 2 weeks behind on that because they had to save up some money to do whatever just to get to you. Probably had to pay for whatever suit that he was able to put together, right? His nails and hands may be dirty. He may not speak with the proper vernacular that you expect for someone coming into his entry-level associate job or even a entry-level management job. I have an example, 2 examples. We'll go back to what we were talking about first. So that man in my family, 2 kids, wife, working in car sales all his life. He gets to a point where they want him to be promoted. They want him to go to the finance department in this car dealership. Here's how they did it. Well, so-and-so, there are a number of courses that a person has to take to have that position. And as soon as you take those courses, we'll promote you. Now, do y'all want to know how much these damn courses are? During that time, I would imagine at least 2,500, 5 Gs. And today it's probably at more of a 5 or 10 Gs today, right? All these years later. I don't know who that has a family, wife, right? Living in an apartment, living check to check, or living as best they can, because at that time, like I said, they made a little bit more money. So that means he had to be selling cars out the ass, one. And you think they just got $2,500 saved up each to take each one of those courses. When you, as the employer, $2,500 is like $250 to you. So if you want that Black man to be in that management position so that you can show that you're diverse and you have, this unicorn staff, whatever the fuck you want to call it. If you want him that bad, if you're really about his success and his personal interest and well-being, you will pay for that fucking class. Instead, you put the carrot in front of him and gave him another test that you knew his ass wasn't going to be able to pass. You knew damn well he didn't have that money. And so then we use that as an excuse and say, oh, well, opportunities come to Black people, or it's not enough Black people to find for that opportunity. Or when we do give them the opportunity, they don't follow through. You can't follow through in that example if you ain't got no fucking money. You can't go to another job and get that same role, because when you get there, they're going to ask you the same thing. Where's this certification? And they're going to do the same thing. Well, we'll bring you in at this level, see how you do, and then we'll promote you to where you want to be. And then when that time comes for you to be promoted where you want to be, it's the same thing again. As soon as you pay that $2,500 or whatever the hell it is to get the extra course, you'll be promoted. And it's a continuous fucking cycle. Whereas if it's my Caucasian male, 9 times out of 10, he has family that's going to give him the money. Or because of his relatability through race, the employer is going to pay for it with no problem. I have another one. This is a younger guy who's my age. At that time, I was working at Human Genome Sciences in Rockville, Maryland, which is now GSK. And HGS at that time was very instrumental in the first big pharma company to do a employment boot camp, meaning it was open season, so to speak. Whoever applied, they interviewed them. Whoever got through the interview process was a part of that boot camp class. And if you made it through all the tests of that boot camp class, you had a job as an entry-level manufacturing associate level 1. All right. So I got my friend in as a favor of another friend. And I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised too. But he made it. And the reason why I say I was surprised, because this person really didn't show any interest, but he knew he needed a job and he had a kid on the way. So I'm assuming that's probably what drove him. And so he gets the job. He's in, he's doing okay, he's doing what he needs to do. But then it gets to a point where there's a little bit of conflict, and here's where the conflict came in. So he's been there less than a year, maybe up to a year at this point. There's another person that's my equal. We came at the same time. By that time, I think we was already there 2-3 years. And each one of us was at this point where we're versus each other to be promoted. And so my friend is on his team. Okay, so I'm just setting the stage. So we're doing something that's going, towards the end of the day where that team is coming over to take over my shift. I was day shift, they was evening. I'm getting ready to head out. All of the leadership was at some type of leadership meeting, so they wasn't on site. I'm getting ready to leave. The one that's versus me is a white male, okay? Mm-hmm. And I get a phone call saying, hey, from him. Hey, Tia, we're in this manufacturing suite. We got to do X, Y, Z per what you said. I'm having some trouble because this person is refusing to do his job, and I don't want to get any trouble. And I know you know each other. Come help me out, see if you can talk to him. I'm like, okay. I go in there. This person is doing their job. The Caucasian male wanted him to do something. I would just say it's just not necessary, is how I would put it. And so as I'm talking to him, I said, well, go ahead and do this. And he's like, nah, he don't want me to do that. He want me to do X, Y, Z. Basically want him to do some janitorial work. And we shared janitorial responsibilities on purpose so that nobody would feel like they're the janitor of the group. Because at that time, we didn't have a separate staff that come in there throughout the day to clean the manufacturing suite. At that time, when I started, we had to do every fucking thing. So we was mopping, we was cleaning parts, we was autoclaving, we doing the process. We did every fucking thing. And so I'm talking to him, so, well, how long you been such and such, and why aren't you trained on this? I'm going through the motions. So now I'm getting concerned. He's like, I can't get trained because all he would let me do was mop the floors. So I went back and talked to him. I said, hey, you're going to have to train him, do X, Y, Z. You can't just have him pick somebody else to mop the floors today, give him a break and train him on something so he feels like he's a part of the team. Fast forward, right? It's constant conflict with the guy on that team. Fast forward, we have layoffs. This is when 2008 recession hit. And, as I'm coming to work that day, I didn't know. I'm coming to work that day, and now everybody's like, oh, pulled me into a room. It's like, yeah, a couple of your team members are going to be let go. They call you, don't answer the phone. When they come in today, they're going to be handed a paper and told to walk to this building. They won't even be allowed to come in. We are laying them off. That person that I talked about that was only allowed to mop floors despite his training in boot camp to do things like cell count, filtration, steaming of the bioreactor, all this shit he was trained to do. When he finally got that opportunity to do it, he wasn't allowed to do it. He was only allowed to be a fucking janitor, for lack of better words. And so when it came time to lay people off, he was cut.
He was disposable.
He was disposable because he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. He went through the boot camp. He didn't get his training done. He didn't. It was not him. It was that lead that I talked to you about. It was the supervisor and the manager that was over their department responsibility to make sure things were being done a certain way to ensure his success. Now, in that situation, you laying him off hurt everybody. Yes, it hurt him because he didn't have the money for his family and his son and everything he was going through, but it also hurt the business because now you have one less trained person that can actually contribute gone. Right. And you're in a situation where you can't even hire nobody because we're in a recession. So who got hurt the most? The company. And then that presents this culture, right? Because this black man was considered less than. He was forced to do XYZ, wasn't allowed to do what he got hired to do. And then all of a sudden he's pegged as the difficult employee that isn't doing what he's supposed to do. And this happens every fucking time. I had another example. Black male, graduated summa cum laude. I think he went to Savannah State down in Georgia. Biochemistry major, key honor student. He didn't last in biotech a blip. When I met him, he had braids. I said, dude, get the haircut. They're going to be tripping about them braids. He cut the hair. He got the job. There's one thing he couldn't get rid of that they stereotyped him as being dumb or unfit for the job. He had a Southern twang. It's Georgia. That's how we speak, right? But for him, it was there. He'd been there all his life. So coming to Maryland, that's not something you're going to turn off right away, nor should it be something that you're judged off of to say you don't know what you're doing. Incident happened, someone steamed, right? Some shit very minor, okay? Somebody probably didn't follow the SOP or whatever. He's new. Easy target. So-and-so did that, and a supervisor lied on him and said he did it. Somebody that wasn't even on the fucking floor. He wasn't even in the fucking room. But because he was an easy target, black male, twang, couldn't get his words together because he's nervous because you're being accused of something you didn't do. You're trying to say you did do it. And from that, he was fired on the spot. Okay. He tries to go to another biotech up the street. Fired. Didn't even last because of that twang. I don't even think he lasted there a couple weeks. He went to another spot. Fired. To this day, even me, I've tried to get him to come and work for me at Lucas Pi Bio. Fear factor. No.
Yeah.
He's been teaching science in the public school system in Maryland for, at this point, a little over 10, 12 years. He has 2 kids, and I think he's married at this point. At that time, he just had 1 kid, he wasn't married. But the whole point is, he said, no, I like my life. I have my time. I spend it with my kids. I know my schedule. I'm an expert at what I do. I have no desire to go back to biotech. Could you blame him?
No.
These are the things that are done that prevent black men from being successful in a corporate America type situation, from us in corporate America being able to attract them, to entice them to come after these jobs, and then an overall cycle on the employer end are saying that there aren't any black people out there that have these quality skill sets. There are tons of black people out there with a quality skill set. If you really want to go all the way back to history, if that helps, it was the black people on the slave camp that had all the high quality technical capabilities. We were cutting the wood and making your fucking furniture. Our women were cooking the food and helped you out with your recipes until now y'all have no flavoring in your food. But when you try to remember why your grandma would make it versus what your mom would make and hers tastes good, chances are she got that from back in the day and it translated generations down to generation. Your cotton fields was picked by us. The damn cotton was woven by us. Anything you can think of. Hell, even down to a haircut, barbershop. You had a black barber. And they weren't appreciated for it, nor were they paid for it. And look where we are today. Same situation, just augmented a little bit differently because all this technology. COVID-19 hit. Black and brown people are sent home from wherever they work at because they work most likely on Main Street for the majority of them. Or if they are in corporate America, they are working in a role where they have to be on site every day to do their job. And now you're telling them, well, you can't go to work, you got to go home. Majority of them cannot work from home. Majority of them have no skill set of technology beyond this right here and checking their email on that. And most of them only have an email because of the job that they got that requires them to have one for certain communication. And you got this president, technically, who's still in power as we speak, unless something has changed in the last few minutes, telling us that he's not giving any more money because these people are getting rich off this shit. Who's getting rich off of $800 to $1,000 a week? And taxes come out of unemployment, guys. It ain't free money. So who getting rich off of that when you're already knee deep in debt? You probably was out of work almost 90 days before you got your unemployment check. So now you damn near about to be kicked out of your place. You barely got food to eat. You finally get some money in. What you do with that money? Well, hell, in addition to buying food, you got to back pay all these bills. Hell, you got to keep this on. So when they do call you back, you got a job, or whoever you been applying to, the best way you could apply to, so they can actually reach you and say you got the interview. Then you got to go figure out how you're going to do the interview. You can't go in person. So now you doing the shit from the phone. These are the things that keep people of color down. These are the things that keep us from generating wealth because we don't have the same opportunities. On the employment end, let's be clear. On the entrepreneurship end, we have our part. We need the resources. And I'm not talking about no fucking class or no training or recommendation or what speaking engagement, all that shit. We need fucking money. Either you're gonna give the money so we can use it, put in our business, or anytime you speak to us, as black and black is being cool now, then you need to pay for us to do that speaking engagement and stand there on your behalf and vouch for you as an ally. If you're a real ally, you're gonna pay us and give us our financial due to get ahead where we need to get to.
Those are great words to actually stop this on, because that's food for thought for everyone who's going to listen in. Tia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to be actually thinking about this conversation for a while. So thank you. We're going to have you on again soon. So looking forward to that.
All right.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast. Regulatory Guy, Irregular Podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.